Lots to discuss here in today's video, including lots of action from the Stanley Cup playoffs. We had two more teams eliminated last night, plus the Jets have taken a series lead and rebounded. We have 4 Game 6s on the schedule tonight, a couple of key important injury updates regarding some of the playoff teams as well. We get the finalists for the Hart Trophy, lots of information about the coaching carousel and who's possibly going where and who's interviewing where and all that kind of stuff. Plus, are the Vancouver Canucks for sale? There are some rumblings around that possibility, and we're going to talk about the future of Mitch Marner in Toronto. We get some interesting comments from an NHL analyst that says there's some hostility between Marner and management and some talk around what the Devils may do this offseason as well. They were just recently eliminated, but lots of talk about what they tried to do before the deadline, which they could revisit. All that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here, especially with the playoffs, which we'll get into in just a sec. First, I just want to take a look at the nominations that came through today for the Hart Trophy. The finalists have been determined. Of course, all the votes have been in now for a while in most of these awards, and they're just kind of letting us know at random weird times who the finalists are. I'm not really sure how the NHL is going about this. I understand they wanted to go with a little bit of a different format this year, but I don't know. This seems like a really busy day to be releasing award nominees. There's 4 Game 6s tonight. For a lot of people, this is probably going to get lost in the shuffle in the news cycle. So that's why, obviously, I want to make sure I touch on all these points as well. Make sure that you can kind of get all your news here in one place and not miss stuff. But the Hart Trophy finalists are Tampa Bay Lightning forward Nikita Kucherov, Oilers forward Leon Draisaitl, and goaltender Connor Hellebuyck. Now, a little surprising, but not completely shocked. The omission of Nate MacKinnon. Of course, MacKinnon, I think, deserved a lot of votes, and I wouldn't be shocked if when we see the ballots and the full breakdown later that we find out maybe he's 4th in voting. Hellebuyck here is the wild card. Obviously, he's definitely going to win the Vezina. I have no doubt about that. But it's hard to make an argument that he wasn't the most valuable to his team. If you think about what the definition is of most valuable player, and obviously, I think he exemplifies that. So I think the emergence of Hellebuyck and the season he had is kind of what knocked MacKinnon out. Otherwise, it probably would have been Kucherov, Draisaitl, and MacKinnon. But it'd be interesting to see who wins this. Not a slam dunk to Hellebuyck wins the Hart. It is that he wins the Vezina. I'm not quite sure who wins. I think you could probably make a case for any of them. They all had phenomenal seasons. Now, as I mentioned, lots of updates regarding the Stanley Cup playoffs. Now, last night, we saw 2 more series end and 1 more extend. Of course, we weren't expecting that one to end anyway. The Winnipeg Jets bounced back and win Game 5 after losing Games 3 and 4 to the St. Louis Blues. Connor Hellebuyck did have a better night. He was better. The Jets did win. But Connor Hellebuyck wasn't amazing. There was still a really soft goal given to Jimmy Snuggerud. So he was better. They got the W, which is what's most important here. But I think to close out the series, they're going to need Hellebuyck to come to another level again. So we'll see if he can get there. We know he has it in him. We know he has the skill. It's just for whatever reason in the playoffs, he has struggled, and it's a reoccurring theme, unfortunately, throughout most of his career. But they pulled off a 5-3 victory. Should have been 5-2. Blues did a late goal that meant nothing. Unfortunately, the Jets, unfortunately for the Blues, they dropped the game. Jets win 5-3, go up 3-2 in this series. But unfortunately for the Jets, they lose arguably their best player, Mark Scheifele. Scheifele took a couple of big hits. One from Braden Schenn, one from Radek Faksa. Now, after the Schenn hit, which is the one getting the most attention, he did stay in the game and play a few shifts. So I know Jim Montgomery, the coach of the Blues, made a point, which I'm not really sure why, but made a point to talk about that hit from Braden Schenn and making sure he says that Scheifele wasn't hurt on the Schenn hit. He was hurt on the Faksa hit, which is when he left the game. And then, of course, Scott Arniel, the head coach of the Jets, he, is told what Monty had to say, and he's like, well, when did Monty get his medical degree? It was quite the back and forth in each coach's post-game interview, but I don't really think neither coach obviously has a medical degree, but I think it's fair to say that Scheifele probably was hurt before the Faksa hit and tried to play through it. The Faksa hit probably just made it worse and was, a case where he had to go. I mean, looking at it, to me, the Schenn hit doesn't have head contact. At least it doesn't appear to in the angles I've seen. But it does look like he leaves his feet. I do think there was an argument there for a penalty. We're not expecting any kind of supplementary discipline from player safety. That's already been confirmed. They've obviously were watching it. They watch all the games. They're not expected to call Shen in for a hearing or give him a fine. Little surprised. At the very least, I thought it could have been a fine. Obviously, leaving his feet is not something. Sometimes hits look like they leave their feet because sometimes the impact from laying the hit, they come off their skates, like off the ice a little bit. So it looks like they're leaving their feet. So I made sure I slowed it down. I watched it numerous times. And did he come off his feet after? Did the feet come off the ice as a result of the impact, or was this like a launch? And to me, it does look like a launch. He comes in, it gets him here. I mean, it's a little high, but it doesn't look like it's head. It is a tad late as well. I really thought they had a solid argument there for a penalty, but I don't know that it really goes into supplementary discipline. Scheifele's been a marked target in that series, there's no doubt, and he's taken a lot of big blows. I don't know what the injury is. They didn't disclose. I'm going to guess if it's he could still have a concussion because the coach was asked if he was in concussion protocol and he wouldn't answer. So I'm guessing that's probably a yes. He's not traveling to St. Louis for Game 6, which is also a big blow for Winnipeg. So yeah, we'll see. Nothing's coming from it, but could be a big turning point in the series for sure. They just got Gabe Vilardi back last night. They lose Scheifele. Ehlers is still out too. Not expected to play in Game 6, but he is going to travel with the Winnipeg Jets, and Arnold said just to kind of watch for what kind of jersey he's wearing in practice. But right now, we're led to believe he's not playing. So we'll see. Now, the other two games last night resulted in eliminations. The Washington Capitals ended the run for the Montreal Canadiens, ending that game or series in 5 games, winning 4-1 last night, which is also the result of the series, 4-1, 4-1. Obviously, Washington came out pretty strong. Got goals from Ovi, Wilson, and it was just a pretty dominant game. Montreal did put up a good fight, though. They certainly had their moments, and they were stopped by Logan Thompson, who had a pretty solid game as well. Obviously, I think the Capitals were just too big, too strong, and too overpowering for Montreal. Although, like we said before, Montreal has no reason to hang their heads. They had a great season. They exceeded expectations. They made the playoffs faster than a lot of people expected them to through their rebuild. They're only in year 3 here. And, they certainly look like they have a bright future. I mean, duplicating what they did this year and taking it a step further, it's not going to be easy. They certainly will probably, like all teams, go through a little bit of change. It's always possible you can run into growing pains, but it doesn't really matter. We don't know what next year's going to look like. The future is bright, though. There's no doubt that they gained a lot of valuable experience. A lot of these guys experienced playoff hockey for the first time. It's very, very valuable learning experience for how things are managed and the intensity and all that. So, it was a very violent series as well, and certainly was interesting to see Josh Anderson and Tom Wilson have a very cordial, very, interesting handshake. I wasn't sure how they're going to react to each other, but very respectful, cordial, whatever you want to call it. They've been battling each other for a long time. But yes, Washington moves along. Of course, that series is now confirmed for round 2. They'll play the Carolina Hurricanes in round number 2, and Montreal season comes to a close. Montreal is expected to do their end of season media availability by the players on Friday, and I believe Marty St. Louis and the management, Ken Hughes, Jeff Gordon, I believe are going to speak on Monday. That may have changed, but I believe that's scheduled for Monday right now. The Florida Panthers eliminated the Tampa Bay Lightning as well last night in Game 5 with a 6-3 victory. A couple of those goals were empty netters. Florida just kind of showed up, punched Tampa in the mouth, won all 3 road games. Tampa just didn't have any answers. Vasilevsky at one point was the most feared goalie in the playoffs. I don't think that's the case anymore. He hasn't really had a great first round in the past couple of years. I wonder what changes we'll see for the Lightning. They made a lot of changes at the deadline and still only won 1 playoff game. So that's quite a story if you take a look at it and think of, okay, they added Gordon, they added Bjorkstrand. Of course, he was hurt. Like a lot of teams that had some injuries and nobody's perfectly healthy, but Kucherov hasn't been as nearly as effective the playoffs the past couple of years. It's been a while since he scored a playoff goal. Has a decent amount of assists, but some talk around John Cooper's future as well. I'm not sure what's going to happen in Tampa, but I mean, they've had a great run, and maybe they have to take a look. And I don't think they're not gonna blow it up. They're not gonna start selling pieces left, right, and center. But I do wonder if we'll see, some kind of a shift within the core group. It's hard to say because they've already kind of started the process of moving out some of the veterans, and obviously they moved on from Stamkos and things like that, and obviously they have Braden Point, Anthony Cirelli, Brandon Hagel. They're all still youngerish, right? Kucherov been there a long time. Victor Hedman's the captain now, so it's hard to say what kind of changes we'll see. Lots of speculation around the future of Cooper, though. Like I said, with his relationship to Utah owner Ryan Smith, a lot of people think he will eventually end up there. I don't know for sure if the Lightning will make a change. I suspect we'll find out here in the coming days or by next week if that's going to be the case. He is under contract next year. And if he is let go or they decide that it's time for a new voice, I think they're going to have so much respect for Cooper that it's not going to be a traditional firing if they do decide this. It's going to be a conversation, and maybe they decide this, that's what's best. They'll say it's a parting of ways or what have you. And Cooper can either find another job immediately because he'd be right at the top of a lot of people's list. He could take a year off, go and work in TV if he wants, not even work at all if he doesn't want to. I'm sure he's financially fine. And then, when the Utah job does come open, because I don't see them jumping to get rid of Andre Tourigny, but you never know, right? We'll have to wait and see. The future of John Cooper is definitely something to monitor. And of course, tonight we have 4 Game 6s, kicking things off with the Battle of Ontario. Of course, in the Ottawa's Canadian Tire Center for Game 6 then against the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Senators feel like they've planted a seed of doubt within the core of the Maple Leafs, who have been down this road many times before and have had a hard time getting over the hump. Can the Leafs exercise their demons and get through this, or are we going to be forced to go back to Toronto for a very nerve-wracking Game 7 for Leafs and their fan base? It's hard to say. The odds makers do have Ottawa as the favorites tonight. I know it's going to be an insane atmosphere. It's just a matter of, can the Sens keep it going after 2 straight wins? That's going to be a very interesting game for sure. You get Vegas, Minnesota tonight. Vegas trying to close out, of course. Minnesota trying to stay alive. Dorofeyev is out for Vegas. The Stars and Avalanche, of course. Stars trying to close out the Avalanche. Nathan McKinnon, Gabe Landeskog and company, Cale Makar trying to stave off elimination. They're at home. They're also the I believe the Avalanche are the favorites according to the odds makers as well tonight. I'd be surprised if Dallas closes them out in 6, but we'll see. And then LA trying to see if they can find answers for this runaway train called the Edmonton Oilers, who have dominated them for the past number of periods now, and obviously gotten back into that series and then now taking it over. So it should be lots of fun action here tonight. Any of these series that are extended to Game 7, hopefully we get a couple, because they're always the most fun games to watch, will be played on Saturday night. And of course, if they're done, they're done. On Friday night, we have Jets Blues. If they go Game 7, they'll be played on Sunday. I would suspect round 2 is probably going to start with Caps Canes. Most likely on Monday would be my guess. Now, lots of updates here too around coaches and the coaching carousel. Apparently, Lightning assistant coaches Jeff Blashill and Jeff Halpern are getting a lot of consideration and contacts from other teams for head coaching vacancies. So they are expected to be interviewed by a variety of clubs. Like I said, I have openings right now, so they might find themselves on the move. Hard to say. Obviously, Blashill has head coaching experience before. I know Halpern's been on the list too for a few teams, so we'll see. Hard to say, though. We did get confirmation that the Anaheim Ducks have interviewed Jay Woodcroft. So, of course, the former Oilers coach trying to get back into the league. I would suspect he would be a pretty good candidate. We do know that Coach Joel Quenneville has already interviewed there and is expected to be getting a second interview. The Ducks reportedly also did talk to David Carl, the University of Denver. We don't really know if he's open to going there or not, but they have had conversations. And, of course, another college coach from the University of Western Michigan, Pat Verschweiler, he is getting an opportunity to talk to the Philadelphia Flyers. Apparently he had a big, long meeting. He is a former teammate as well of President Keith Jones, so a well-known person to him, who's getting consideration for the open job with the Philadelphia Flyers. And Vancouver Canucks assistant coach Adam Foote, hard to say if he returns to the Canucks or not. I know Jim Rutherford made it known that once they knew whether or not Rick Tocchet was coming back, would determine those the assistant coaches, as some of them have worked with Rick for a long time, and may choose to not want to return to Vancouver either, and they would sort all that out afterwards. We haven't had an official announcement, but it's believed that Adam Foote is also getting some interest as well for some of the vacant head coaching positions. Some teams want to interview, a short list of 3-4 people. Other teams like to do a wide search and bring in 10, 12 candidates. So we'll have to see. But lots of assistant coaches getting some interesting potential offers. We'll see where things go around the coaching carousel. Like I said, there could be a few more coaches as far as guys that can be, like if you look at the eliminated teams right now, like in Montreal, they're not going to be doing a coaching change. We know that. Sheldon Keefe was in his first year with New Jersey. They had a bunch of injuries. He's not going anywheres, right? If you look at the teams that could go out tonight, I would suspect Ottawa and Toronto, no matter who loses there, they're both first-year coaches, done a good job. There's not going to be change there. Vegas, Minnesota, John Hines, I would suspect that Minnesota is safe. Now in Vegas, I wouldn't think Bruce Cassidy would be on the outs if Vegas lost the series, but Vegas is a different animal. We've seen that they don't have a lot of patience there, and the Avalanche might be a team to watch. Long tenured coach Jared Bednar. If they don't win that series, you never know. They might make a change. He's been there a long time. Obviously had a lot of success, but the last 2-3 years in the playoffs haven't gone well for the Avalanche, and they may choose to go with a new voice there. It's hard to say. Edmonton and LA. Edmonton, I think, is safe. Knobloch hasn't been there very long. Los Angeles, though, if they don't win this series, I wouldn't be shocked if they completely clean house, not only with the coaching staff, but in the front office as well. But we'll have to wait and see where things go on that front. Now, there is some speculation about the Vancouver Canucks maybe being for sale. I know there was some Canucks media that saw this report and checked with Canucks, and they were told there was no truth to it. But to be fair, I don't think that anybody's going to openly come out and admit this anyways, because it's not something that I don't think is for sure. It's right now there's just a rumor that the Canucks might be for sale. Now, that's owned by Aquilini Investment Group. The founder, Luigi Aquilini, and his two sons, he has three sons, but two of his three sons, Pablo and Roberto, don't really have any, there's no active role for them, the day-to-day operations of the Vancouver Canucks. They are just part of the ownership group. Of course, Francesco Aquilini is the one who looks after things for the Vancouver Canucks from ownership. And of course, we've heard lots over the years how he's very hands-on, very, meddling, if you will, with the ones who run hockey operations. And, I think it's partly responsible for the dysfunction that we see largely within that organization, because it doesn't seem to matter who the other people are working there. There always seems to be some form of dysfunction, obviously. And at this point, the speculation is that the founder, like Luigi, so Francesco's dad and his brothers, are just kind of tired of the drama and everything that comes with this team, and that they may be seriously considering a sale. Now, it may not be a majority sale. It might only be a minority, and maybe somebody else could represent ownership, and maybe the Aquilinis kind of, retain a chunk and step back, or maybe they do find a majority owner. Either way, it's estimated between the assets of the team and the arena that it would be between $2 and $3 billion would be the valuation. But again, that's early speculation. I think it would be great for the Canucks because they've such a dysfunctional team, and like I said, the drama around that, it just seems to never go away. So I might not be the worst thing if that's true, but like I said, for right now, the Canucks are denying that, but it's out there. So we will see what happens. Now, I also want to talk about the future of the Devils and what they might do this offseason and Mitch Marner. I know Leaf fans might get ticked at me for talking about Mitch Marner on the evening of Game 6, Ottawa-Toronto, but hey, there's some reports out there I wanted to talk about, and I want to talk about how Game 6 or 7, if it happens, impacts his future. But first, let's talk about New Jersey. There was reports today from RG.org talking about what Tom Fitzgerald and the Devils were trying to do at the deadline. They were very much trying to address the center ice position. If you listen to the comments that previously made from Tom Fitzgerald, he was really trying to add down the middle, and he really, with or without Jack Hughes, he wanted another centerman. And the reports are that he was pretty hardcore trying to get Ryan O'Reilly. And Ryan O'Reilly was going to cost way too much money, according to the Nashville Predators' request for what it would cost. Plus, we know that even though O'Reilly technically does not have trade protection, Barry Trotz was giving him the respect that he thought he earned and deserves for being a good, solid, hardworking veteran, that he wasn't going to trade him without running it by him first. And O'Reilly wasn't crazy about it. O'Reilly and the Predators had offers as well from Toronto to go back. The Senators tried to get him as well, and the Devils, and I think there might have been another team too, I'm not sure. But the requested asking price, before they'd even go talk to O'Reilly to get approval, even though they didn't need to, was Nemec, so Simon Nemec, Dawson Mercer, and a first-round pick. So I can understand why Tom Fitzgerald in New Jersey wouldn't pay that price. That's a lot. So I would expect them to look to readdress that this summer. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to make another plea or run here at O'Reilly, but I would suspect to try to see them add down the middle here again. I think they have lots on the blue line. Jonathan Kovacevic is expected to miss the first part of the season. He had a pretty serious knee injury. We did learn since they were eliminated that he does need surgery, and he won't be ready to start training camp in the beginning of the season. So, they do have a lot of blue liners. I don't think they really need to do a whole lot in terms of restructuring the D-core. If anything, it's going to be within the forward group. Between the pipes, Markstrom, of course, enters the final year of his contract. So is he going to be extended? That's a question for the Devils. Is Jake Allen as a backup going to return? He's a free agent. It's believed, based on my intel on the situation, that the Devils are not planning to re-sign Jake Allen. They're probably going to want to bring in one of their younger goalies, like Nico Dawes or somebody. They have a few developing goalies in the minors that they're hoping would be ready for next year. So, although Jake was really, really good for them, I do wonder if they'll have second thoughts. I don't know what kind of contract Jake's going to be looking for. I know he was happy there. But this might be Jake's last contract if it's a multi-year deal. If it's a single-year deal, then maybe he plays beyond that. I don't know. But I do know he intends to want to play a little bit more, at least another couple of years probably, before he will consider retirement, just based on what I've heard and been told. But we'll see on that situation. But the Devils will be interesting to see what they do. They weren't expected to beat Carolina because of all the injuries. They did take a good step forward this year after what they went through the year before. But, at this rate, they're going to have a tough time being the top of that division if Washington stays as strong as they are, and same with Carolina. So they'll be definitely making some moves to try to combat that. In the future of Mitch Marner, I've seen some comments from hardcore Leaf enthusiast, we'll call him, and of course NHL analyst Paul Bissonnette, of course known as Biz between his time on Spit and Chicklets and TNT, made an appearance in the Pat McAfee show, and he was talking about Mitch, and he was saying that there was some hostility between Mitch Marner and Leafs management due to the fact that they tried to trade Mitch at the trade deadline for Mikko Rantanen, and kind of wondered how that could impact the future of Mitch Marner. Of course, I also wonder how Game 6 tonight, and if it happens, Game 7 on Saturday, will impact his future with this team as well. I've heard Leaf fans saying that if the Leafs end up dropping this series and get reverse swept, because if the Sens win, that's the only way they can do it. It would be a 4-straight comeback from 3-0 reverse sweep. That it's to be the most embarrassing loss out of all of their playoff blunders during the Marner-Matthews era. Okay, I get it, and it's probably because they look at Ottawa as being little brothers, what I hear a lot of them saying. I think they're maybe underestimating how good that team could be, but that's just me. But sometimes it's not about the team you're playing. It's more about the players on your team. And Marner and Matthews, this seemed, for whatever reason, to struggle in these closeout games. Now, can they exercise those demons and get over the hump? I think once it finally happens, assuming it does, then it's probably going to be something that they conquer and will probably be able to move on from as something that people don't say about them anymore. But, for right now, that's the knock on them, right? And I would have to think that the future of Marner, where he's a free agent coming up, is going to be greatly impacted by this series. If Marner can't find a way to overcome that lack of production in the big games and they lose in this first round, then yeah, I would seriously drop the odds of him returning to Toronto. I would think that the management's going to be like, we can't keep doing this. However, I know that just because there's some hostility between Marner and the team over the trade or potential trade that they asked about, I don't know that it means that he's not coming back. Because, some people think, oh yeah, they don't like each other anymore. He's probably pissed and he's a goner regardless of what happens. There's others that think, well, if they have their best playoff success, and let's say they win at least one round, preferably 2 or 3, or even a cup or anything like that, then he's definitely staying. But if they don't get past the second round, then he's probably a goner. The Leafs aren't going to want to pay that much money for another, bunch of years of the same thing. Okay, you get that, you understand that, but it's hard to say, right? You got to remember they were able to get Mikko Rantanen, right? So that's why they were willing to do it. If there's no other player that's a big name that they feel can give them a different kind of look and a different kind of player with a different kind of result to replace him, they're not going to be so eager to make that move. And he's a darn good player, produces a ton. But for whatever reason, in the closeout games is where he struggles. And if he overcomes that, then his value is going to skyrocket. And I would think the odds of him staying are much, much better. But I do think that Marner's, how he plays and how this team performs tonight will have a big impact on his future. And if they don't get it done tonight and it goes to a Game 7, then Game 7 on home ice is their opportunity to exercise those demons again. And if they can't do it, then we're going to see change. It's just that simple. But the hostility between Marner and Leafs management, it does appear to be a real thing. I've seen and heard that enough since the trade deadline. But I think they can find a way to get back on the same page if the results are there and there isn't another player that's a similar salary that they like better available to replace them with. And, like I said, the Rantanen thing was a very unique situation. So we'll have to see. Can Marner set that hostility aside if they're like, here you go, Mitch, sign with us, 8 years, $14 million a year? You'd have to think he would take it, right? You'd think, but we'll see. Let me know your thoughts on the Leafs. Can Marner overcome? Will this series have a major impact on his future? Let me know what you think the Leafs do, depending on the outcome here on this series. And then, of course, after that, even if they do overcome and beat the Senators, what if they lose to Florida again? Is it the same thing? Does the first round win really mean much if you go out like you did to Florida last time? That's another thing to consider as well. Let me know what you think in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.